her hip replacement surgery well on Sunday evening and is back home now recovering from that. So we continue to pray for Brenda. Jason, how is your mom doing in her recovery? Okay. Right. Okay. Well, we'll continue to pray for her and pray that they get that infection knocked on out. You can remember my dad, he's going to have his injection in his spine tomorrow. They'll be doing that. So pray that all goes well and gives him some relief from that pain, the herniated disc. Do we have any other prayer requests, praise reports that will come before us tonight? Okay. Well, let's bow as we go to the Lord then in prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for this time to be in your house tonight as a family of faith. We thank you for this time to consider how we can love you with all that we have. Lord, we thank you that you are the giver of every good and perfect gift. And Lord, that every blessing comes from our Heavenly Father. And Lord, part of the way that we worship you, part of the way that we honor you with our lives is giving back to you, Lord, what is rightfully yours. And sometimes that involves sacrificial giving. And Lord, we are so excited about this new chapter in the life of our church and this Family Life Center and just the culmination of years of work and planning and praying. And Lord, how you've led us to this. In a year of 2020 when so much has gone wrong, we are excited, Lord, that you saw fit to allow this building to begin and construction to begin. Lord, we thank you for Reverend Daryl Trexler, who was able to be with us tonight. Thank you for giving him safe travel here. And ask, Lord, that you would bless him as he shares with us. Lord, pray that we would hear and ask questions and leave here with a good sense of understanding and with a sense of excitement and a stirring in our soul, Lord, about what you would have us to do in making our faith promise. We thank you, Lord, not only for everyone who is here tonight in person, but all who are joining us through our YouTube channel. Lord, we pray that you be glorified and honored and your church be edified through all of this. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I am happy to introduce to you Daryl Trexler of North Carolina Baptist Foundation. Daryl grew up in eastern North Carolina and moved around somewhat, but kind of calls Southport, North Carolina home. After high school, he attended Campbell University, where he earned a BA in business administration and then and also computer information systems. He began his professional career in the banking industry with Fidelity Bank, and then he began to hear the call of God. That was kind of like a Matthew call from being a tax collector to a disciple, right there. No, he heard God's call to ministry, and in answering that call, he has served many different congregations over the last 18 years. One of those being close to our neck of the woods, Piney Grove Baptist Church in Fuquay, Varina, who ordained him. But he's also served churches in the Wilmington area and really also in Mount Airy, North Carolina. Daryl also received his MD of degree from Campbell University Divinity School, and he has served with the foundation here for a number of years. He speaks to groups all across our state, and he and his wife, Dawn, were married in 1997. They now reside in Leland, North Carolina, and have two amazing children, Abby and Ethan. And so we hate to take you away from them tonight, Daryl, but we're glad you could be with us. He enjoys gardening, sports, fishing, and Major League Baseball. So, Daryl, we are so glad to have you with us and have you sharing. And I think I saw, Marty Dupree, our Director of Missions for the Little River Association, just popped in. Marty, we're so glad to have you with us here tonight and glad you could be with us. So, Daryl, I'll turn it over to you. And Daryl's going to share first. We're going to have a time for question and answers following his presentation. And then after that, Richard Eason's going to come up and make a brief presentation. And then Leonard Johnson will close us out. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. It's good to be here. This is not the first time I've been in this sanctuary. I came to Campbell in 1990, and I had this professor. His name was Mike Cogdell, and I really liked Dr. Cogdell, and he became the interim pastor here. And then my best friend, Mike Mitchell, became the part-time youth minister here. So guess where I came to church for about a year and a half, Neals Creek. So it's good to be back. It's been a pleasure of mine to get to know Chris as well and your pastor and get to follow you guys. Being with COVID-19, it's been fun to watch some of my friends in their elements, and so I've been able to join your worship service on occasion. So thank you for having me. I should have shortened the intro, Chris. I'm just Daryl. And the computer information systems, that was before the internet was created. So that degree is no longer valid, but it is good to be with you tonight. I have to say this before we begin. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the specifics about giving, and I know you can't read that, so I'll read it to you. I am not a CPA, and I am not an attorney, so anything we talk about tonight is neither legal or accounting advice, okay? So anything that you have questions about, let me strongly encourage that before you do anything, you talk with those professionals in your world. More importantly, that's my family. You are not taking me away from them tonight. We have been cooped up in the house together, virtually learning, and they were ready for Daddy to leave. So thank you for the invitation. I want to show you just to start a video just to get our minds thinking in perspective about why we're here tonight. Now, this video at the very end, you're going to understand what it's trying to say. And it's going to say something that we're all familiar with. But I just want you to watch it just to get our hearts and minds together and in the same place tonight. So take a look at this video as we start.
Is it time yet?
Time for what? Oh, honey, that's not for 3 weeks. Go do your homework.
Mom, is it time now?
2 more weeks, honey. 2 more weeks.
Mom, is it today?
Not today.
Mom, is it time now? Is it time yet? Mom? Mom? Mom?
Yeah?
Is it time yet?
Tomorrow.
Yes! Mom? Now is it time?
Okay, go ahead.
Fine. I've been waiting forever to give you this.
Oh, believe me, I know.
obviously think he's looking forward to getting that gift. But he understands something that we all understand. That's why we're here tonight. There is great joy in giving. I hope you've experienced joy in giving. I enjoy giving to my kids. I enjoy giving to my church and my congregation. I enjoy giving things to my wife. I enjoy when kids come over to the house, giving them a Coke or a Sprite. I enjoy giving. There's joy in giving. And so it's obviously a giving season here at Neels Creek. And so one of the things we want to talk about with you all as you get ready to go into what we call a capital campaign are just some things about giving that you may or may not know. You know, if you've been in a Baptist church long enough, you know a little bit about giving. The two greatest inventions for a Baptist church in the world of giving are these two things: the offering plate and the offering envelope. That's what you use to give. It's no surprise, 6 feet from me are offering plates. And I imagine on Sunday mornings, that is what gets filled up. Recently, we've got another new way of giving, online giving. You click a little tab, and rather than using cash, what do we use? Our debit or our credit cards. So that's how we know how to give. And it has served us well. Churches have met budgets using this method, and we do not need to get rid of that method. It is a great method. It's a great way to give. What I want to talk to you about tonight is to expand maybe the way you think about giving, especially in the church. It's a great way to give. But are there other options? And we want to talk to you about some other options. Let me go back one. The number one way to give to your church is cash. That's how we think of it. We write a check, or we put dollar bills or whatever into the offering plate, and that's how we give. And that's a wonderful way to give. The number one way, 90% of what comes to a church, maybe 95%, maybe 99%, depending on what church you have, that's how you give. You give cash. There's several other ways that you can give that we want to talk about tonight. One is the idea of what we call appreciated assets. Now, a lot of people think, well, what is that? We just give cash to our church. We give out of our income. There's a thing called appreciated assets. Do you know what an appreciated asset is? I hope you have some of some kind. It's when you buy something, and over time, it's worth more than you paid for it. Now, a lot of times when we think about appreciated assets, we think about stocks. We think about property. That's probably most of us. We hope that our house has gone up in value. We hope that our stocks have gone up in value. Our 401ks, our 501, our 403bs. We hope that happens. And so here's what an appreciated, let's say we got stock. Let's say we bought it for $100. And it, over time, went up $30. So what could we sell it for? $130. If you were to sell that stock and put it in your pocket, how much would you get? How many of you think you get $130? You're smarter than that. We have what they call taxes, right? So if we were to cash that, and let's just say, I'm not going to do percentages, but let's just say $10 was taxed, what do you put in your pocket? $120. Now, is this something that you could potentially give to your church rather than your cash? Yes. Why would you do that? One of the things in some of your situations is when you get a capital gains, you get that extra money. If you were to give it directly to the church, guess how much the church gets? All of it. Because there's a little rule in there that the capital gains tax does not apply. So you could get it for yourself at $125, or you could give it directly to the church. It can't pass your hands, but it can go directly to the church, and they get $130. And so instead of the government getting their part of it, the church, because of its status, would get the whole thing. Now, why would people do that? One, because it helps them hang on to their cash. And then number two, the church actually gets more than you would get. So by giving it to the church, it's a better thing. You have to go through brokers, and I think Niels Creek has that way to do that. With your capital campaign, that is one way that you could give. Right now, it seems to be something that is very popular, and the reason is this. Stocks have some appreciation right now. Over the last couple of years, now March probably wasn't the time to give appreciated stock, but now might be. And a lot of folks we're seeing at the foundation are seeing that this is a good option because it allows them to give. They can hang on to their cash, but this allows the church to get more. That has a similar effect with other appreciated assets. Now, some people, believe it or not, give property. They give other things. They give homes. They give second homes, those kind of things. The same kind of principles apply. Now, everybody's tax situation is different, and so you want to make sure that you talk with your CPA before you just go do that to make sure it's the right thing for you. But appreciated assets is something that really should be considered, especially maybe even in a capital campaign when you're thinking about giving above and beyond your tithe. It is an option, and it is a good option. So what can you give? You can give cash, but expand that. You could give appreciated stock, and it would be to your benefit and the church's benefit. What else could we give? Now, for those of you who are over a certain age will know what those three letters mean. Does anybody know what those three letters stand for? Well, yeah. Required minimum distributions. So if you have an IRA or you have those kind of retirement accounts, the government says that you have to take out a certain amount, right? Whether you want to or not, it's a required minimum distribution, and you have to take it. Now, with 2020 or 2020, with COVID-19, the laws have changed a little bit. I don't keep up with that, so you need to check. But in a normal year, the government says, you know what? Rather than taking your required minimum distribution to you, which, by the way, could be taxed, you can actually send that to the church, and the same thing happens that your appreciated stock gets. The government doesn't get those taxes. And so more of your money, more of your assets goes to the church. This is a tool that is used quite often, especially now that a lot of us don't do itemized deduction. You do standard deductions. And so this might be a tool that you still get some tax benefit without having to do standard deductions. Again, talk with your CPA. So as you begin to think about giving and the joy of giving, there's many, many options. Cash, appreciated stocks, your retirement income, and any other kind of things that you just want to give. You would be amazed at what has been given to the foundation or to endowments. Now, some of the things the church won't accept and shouldn't accept. Do not offer your church a timeshare, okay? Don't do that. Don't do that. But we have had knife collections. We've had all kinds of things. Now, I'm not suggesting you do that, but if you have something to give, talk to the church about it. It's amazing what you can give that might be worthwhile to the church. But in particular, appreciated assets in your required minimum distributions is something to think about. You can give more in more ways than just putting something into a particular offering plate. So I want you to think about different ways that you can give. Let me ask you this. When do we give? We've talked about what and maybe expand that, but when do you give? Do you know when most people give to the church? December. I was an administrator, and we looked forward to December to help cover for the summer. Yep. December is a big giving month. and usually at 11:20 or 9:20 on Sunday mornings. That's when we give. And those now gifts are important. But I want you to think about more than just that. Here's a clue. If I were to ask you, when do we give? And this is, I don't know if this is still around or not. Does anybody know what those are? Now and laters. You remember the candy now and laters? And they just last forever. All right, so this is how they help you to remember. When do you give? You can give now, and you can give later. We are so fixed on the now that sometimes we forget about the later. It's not now or later. It's now and later. Usually in a non-COVID-19, I would actually give you some candy, but I've been told I can't do that by the foundation, so I won't. But now and later. So I want you to just look at these folks here in a minute. But we give now, we give out of our income. That's how we give. I get a paycheck, and then once a month when I get paid, I pay now, and I give to my church, and I write that check, and I put it in the envelope. And that's fairly easy as long as I'm coming to church or have an online option. The later is hard. Do you know why the later is hard? Because planning is involved. You have to really begin to think now and plan to do that, because if you don't plan to give later, you won't. Well, listen, people up here, just tell me who they are. Do y'all know who that is? Very good. You're good, I tell you. Can you see that one? Dr. King? Very good. That one even threw me when I first looked at it. Prince, your pastor knew that one. Your pastor knew that one. John Denver. What do all these people have in common? I mean, there's some different folks, but what do they have in common? They are dead. They are no longer with us. You were right. They are gone. What else do they have in common? Who said that? Several of you did. That's good. What else? They're wealthy. They were all probably had wealth. We don't know, but I would imagine in their professions they did fairly well, or should have done fairly well. Very well known. We all know them. The other thing that they have in common is this. None of them planned to give later. What I mean by that is none of these folks had a will. None of these folks. Now, recently we heard about the debacle with Prince and I think Aretha Franklin. I mean, it was Prince suddenly had cousins he didn't know about, and everybody came. But these folks, who we would assume had lots of assets, they did not plan to give. And I don't just mean their church. They made no plans to give to their family. They gave no plans to give to their friends or to the things that were important to them. They did not have a plan. The states had a plan for them, and there was ways they could do it, but they did not plan. So one of the things that I want you to think about is not only what I can give, but when do I give? And I hope you give now, but I want to also encourage you to give later. How do you give later? You plan. How do you plan? The very first thing you have to do is you have to have a will. Let me ask you this. I'm going to take a quick quiz, and these are going to be really small, so I'm going to read them to you, okay? True or false? Most people have a plan. More than 50% have a plan. What do you think? False? It's actually, believe it or not, true. But there's a but here. They have a will. The last terms that we've heard is about 60% of Americans have a will, which means they have a plan to give to their kids or to their churches or to whatever. But here's the but. Of those that do have a plan, most of them have an updated plan that speaks to their current circumstance. False. So the fact that 65% have wills, a lot of them have wills that do not even apply to their situation. They've got the will they did when they had children at home. They have the will that they had done up on the computer and they haven't looked at in 20 years. So where most do, and I would say even at 60% in elementary school and high school and college, 60%, man, I got an F and had to redo it. The numbers aren't great. Most people have a plan, but not a good number. What we find in churches is there's a lot of folks that do have wills, maybe a little more than 60%. But we do find a lot of folks who haven't looked at it in a while, which means they haven't looked at a plan. Last question. Everyone in Harnett County has wealth. How many of you say false? How many of you say true? It depends. I would say everyone in America has wealth. What I've heard and what I've read through studies is that even the 10 to 5%, 5 to 10% of our poorest of poor are still in the 90 percentile of wealth in America. In other words, most people in America, regardless of what you have or don't have more than most in the world. So we are a rich and wealthy country. Bottom line is this. Most of us, and I would say all of us here, have stuff. So some people say, I don't really need to plan because I ain't got a lot. I don't have a lot. Well, we all have stuff, and we all have people or ministries we want to give to. And so what I would encourage you to do is to go back and think about your plan. Number one, do you have one? Number two, have you looked at it in a while? And then number three, have you thought about how much stuff you actually have and who you might want to give it to? The most generous you'll ever be is the day you pass away. And you can either plan for it or not. And so a lot of people think, I don't even want to think about that. But we would really encourage you. It's a way of giving. And so think about giving out of your assets, not just out of your income. You spent your whole life and you have assets. God's blessed all of us with stuff. How are we going to steward that when we're gone? We want to make sure our families are taken care of. It's very biblical to take care of our families. James talks about that in his book, in the back part of the New Testament. It's important to take care of our friends. God may be calling some of you to give to some of the ministries, maybe this church, maybe other ministries that you really care about. Maybe you've never considered tithing a part of your estate. You can give that later. The other person who can get your money, and it's one of the reasons you want to plan, is Uncle Sam. Now, I am a proponent of paying your taxes. It is very biblical to pay our taxes, but I've also come to the conclusion that it's not unbiblical to minimize our taxes. And that's part of this planning. Let's make sure our families and our ministries are taken care of and then give the government what they allow for. So planning is very important. The foundation has several tools that we make available to you all. Two just print that they're available for you tonight. One is just it takes you through a Christian's Guide to Preparing an Effective Will. It just talks about the things that an attorney is going to ask you when you sit down with him or her. But this way, you've already thought through some things, and it just takes you by there. What's different about ours? It does ask you the question, are there ministries or churches that you would like to leave money to or to leave assets to? And so at least ask you the question. That's not a pressure to do that, but it does ask you to at least consider that. God's calling in your life for that. So these are free for you to have. The other one is a lot of us don't even know what we have. Or we've got some things and we hadn't really organized it, and if something were to happen to us, God help our spouse or our child. They're going to have to go through it. This is a little book called the Records Book, and this just simply gives you a way to take inventory of your assets. That way you see what you have, and if something were to happen, somebody else knows also what you have that's going to be handling your estate. But more importantly, it's just a way to take inventory of the type of assets you have. And so when you sit down with your family or with your professional advisors, I want to give what's the best way I can give you've got your assets listed. The other thing that we have that's brand new with the foundation is this. We have a relationship, a new partnership with a group out of Colorado Springs called Philanthrocorp. And where we can help you with finding out how to give your gifts to the church. How do you do that? We specialize in that. Philanthrocorp takes it a step further. They can actually help you plan your whole estate. What's the best way to take care of my children? What's the best way to take care of my grandchildren? How do I need to structure this? We have a partnership with them, and one of the things that, because we're in the first year, the foundation has already paid for some folks to go through that. And so it's no cost to you, but we can offer some of that. We can offer a limited number for free to some of your leadership, or if you're here tonight. And so if you have any interest in that and have that need, there'll be no pressure to give or anything like that, but it's professional help with your whole estate, your whole plan. We can maybe help you with that, especially in 2020, because it's just something that the foundation is doing and part of our 100th anniversary and something we want to give you. So that's a possibility, and you can just ask me later about that. You give now, you give later. You can give cash now, you can give it later. You can give appreciated assets now, you can give it later. You can give your required minimum distribution now, that you can actually leave later as well. Another thing that you can do for later is in beneficiaries. You have a lot of accounts who sometimes list a beneficiary. Maybe you have a life insurance policy. Maybe you have a retirement account. And it allows you to list the beneficiary. Who's going to be the beneficiary of this asset when I leave? And most of the time it's our spouse or our children. But there's nothing that says you can't leave all or a portion of that to your church to go towards the building campaign later on down. But all of that's later. But you can do those kind of things. And you don't have to do all or none. You can do percentages. And so that's something that some people don't think about, that you can actually leave the beneficiary part of a particular account, which is a really neat thing, a neat planning tool. Okay? What can we give? Lots of options. When can we give? Now and later. Here's the fun one. How do we give? I've tried to think about what's the best way to communicate this, and so I just did the best way to communicate to me. So, what is that? From where? Chick-fil-A. Leland has a Chick-fil-A. We got it 9 months ago. I love my Chick-fil-A. I was so excited. It changed our county. So let me ask you, do you know what this is? And this next picture, they no longer do it. They got rid of it 2 years ago, but how many of you know what that is? Did anybody ever get one of those? Marty did. It's a Chick-fil-A calendar card. And every December, you could go to Chick-fil-A and you buy this calendar. And you paid $7 for it. But you threw the calendar away. In the back of the calendar was a card. And you could take that little coupon, that little card, every month to Chick-fil-A, and guess what they do? Give you something free. January, I got the chicken noodle soup. February, I got the Diet Coke. March, I got a chicken sandwich, and so on. And every month. So let me ask you this. If I had both of those, which I don't, but if I did, which would you rather have? The chicken sandwich or the Chick-fil-A card? How many of you would take the sandwich? There you go, Marty. You're ahead of me. I like it. We're going to get back to that answer. How many of you would take the sandwich? No. How many would take the card? Why? It keeps on giving, right? So Marty stole my answer. It depends. If I were hungry right now, I hadn't eaten in 2 days, and you said, which would you take? I say, I'll take the sandwich now. Give it to me. If I wasn't hungry right now, I'd say, give me the card. Here's the reality of it. When I walked into a Chick-fil-A store in December to buy these to go under the Christmas tree for my family, guess what I walked out with every time? A card and a sandwich. Surprised? Probably not. Two types of giving. These represent. Chick-fil-A sandwich. I go get that. That's for immediate use and now. Do I need a Chick-fil-A sandwich? Do I need lunch every once in a while? Yes, I need the now. I need it. Chick-fil-A card, it provides a blessing stream. That would be nice to have, wouldn't it? Church is the same way. They need immediate gifts. We need immediate gifts. That's why we pass the plate every Sunday. That's why your lights come on. That's why you're able to have staff. That's why you're able to do ministries. And that's how we give. We give it now. We give it a direct gift. Use it, church, use it for your ministries. There's also another way to give, and that's to provide a blessing stream. Real quickly, and I know I'm running out of time, but real quickly, let me show you how a blessing stream could potentially work. I walk into the church, and I have a $20 bill. And I can do like a Chick-fil-A sandwich, and I can give it to the church now. Church, you take that, do something with it. $20, buy 2 bulletins, I don't know. But take it, and you can use it right now. Or another option is this, and the church can use both. You can say, I want this $20 to be a blessing stream. I want this money to be used to create more income. And so let's just say I put this in what we call, some people call it a trust, but let's just call it a charitable endowment. You know what an endowment is. You're not far from Campbell University. You know what an endowment is. You can do that for churches as well, and you don't have to have tons of money to do that. But you put that in there. Let's just say rather than put it in the offering plate, I'm going to put it in an endowment. And let's just say we had an average year, a decent year, and this particular $20 made 5%. We're my mathematicians. How much would it make? Make $1. And so out of this endowment, I didn't bring a $1 bill, but let's say there's a $1 bill. And they said, you know what? Put that in the offering plate for $1. Next year, it makes 5%. How much do you have again? In 20 years, how much is this endowment given to your church? How much do you have left? $20. It's a way to give a blessing stream. You can do that collectively as a church. Matter of fact, your church has done that. You have some scholarships with the foundation that we manage and those kind of things, and it has produced income and revenue, and there's still money in there making money. You can do that individually as well. And part of that benefit can go to your church or it can go to another ministry. But in particular, it can go help with that building as you consider those options. I noticed in your capital campaign, one of the things it talks about with the naming rights and with ways you can give, it lists trust. That's one of the things it's talking about, that you might can find ways to fund something like that to continue a stream. One little difference in this. Some folks say, well, Daryl, let's say I want to give this out of my planned giving, out of my estate. I want to do that, but I really want to make sure my kids are taken care of a little bit too. There's a thing called a charitable remainder trust, which works very similar to an endowment. But what it does is you put that $20 in, and if you're still living, you can actually get the $1 comes to you for your lifetime or for a period of years. And then when all that's over, whatever's left in the endowment, then it starts paying or pays out to your church. So there's ways that you can use this money to create a stream for you and your family, and then turn around and create a stream for your church. That's a little more complicated, but the concepts are very, very simple. You can give in different ways. Before I go any further, there's a lot of different ways you can give, and when you can give and how you can give and planning tools. And we've got some of the resources up here we'd be glad to share with you tonight. But before I go to this last little story I want to tell you, let me just maybe stop here for a minute and see if there's questions that you may have in regards to some of the tools that we talked about. Or I know we've got some folks here on the committee that how does this all play into into what you all are doing. But be glad to take any questions or comments that you may have before I close.
Your children can also do it for a certain amount of time. Is that not correct?
Yes, so you can give that gift, and the stream can go to your children, depending on their age, for their life, or for a period of years. Or if you leave it in your estate, they can get it up to a period of years. Usually it's 10 to 20 years, those kind of things. So you can be for life or for years. There's some tax implications in there, so it depends on how old folks are and who you're getting it and how long they can do it, because bottom line is they want to make sure there's money left for the charity because you get the tax benefit. But yes, it's a tool that if you have one way this is used, that we had a lady who lived at the beach. Her husband passed away. This house was a rental for her. It was on the water, and it was just more hassle than anything. They weren't paying rent. So one of the things that she considered doing was, well, this thing's costing me money. I don't need it anymore. She put it into one of these charitable remainder trusts, put the house in there. Capital gains kind of went away. The money was set there, and she actually began receiving money from the sale of that house. And then at the end, when she passes away, it'll go to her church. So that's one way. It was an asset that wasn't making her any money. She turned it into an asset that was. So there's certain times it really makes sense, and then there's other times people like to do that because they don't want to leave their children. Some children would be good with a $100,000 sudden gift. Some children wouldn't, and they might want to do it through a trust or a charitable remainder trust. Those are just different scenarios, but thank you, Irma. I'll be around. Also, I left my card sitting on my desk, but I do have a little pamphlet up here that has my contact information. If you get home and have some questions, I'm here to do that. It's those kind of conversations. The foundation does that. That's our ministry, and so there's no charge to anybody. So you just call me. We'll be glad to help you and direct you in the right way. And I'll be here a little bit afterwards too to answering questions. So we have area managers, and that's one of the things that we do. We can talk to you especially about the gift portion of that. We can talk to you about general estate planning, those kind of things. That's one of the pieces we do. We do kind of help you know what the options are. We help you know what to ask your professional advisors, those kind of things. We try to work with them as a team. Then the Philanthrocorp thing is a brand new thing that kind of brings a bigger scope, which is nice for our Baptist friends. The other things that we do, we are the trust agency, so we actually are the trustee for a lot of the endowments that go to Baptist causes. We do a lot with Campbell. We do a lot with local churches, those kind of things. We also do church investments, and then we do church loan ministry as well. And there's an investment side of that individuals, that's the only thing individuals can invest in. And I have some information on that. That's not really our topic tonight, but we do have some investments they're structured like certificates of deposit. They're just investments rather than deposits. And so we do that kind of thing for individuals as well that allow people to make a above market rate on a fixed income. So we do those kind of things as well. Thank you, Marty. So yeah, life insurance policies, and I'm just going to give you the generic, and it gets a little specific when you talk about trust and those kind of things. But a couple of ways you can do life insurance policies. One of those is, like I said, you can just make the church the beneficiary. So when you pass away, part of that money comes directly to the church or all of it. There is another way that you can actually put a life insurance policy in the name of the church if the church allows for that. You can put it in a trust. And then the premiums are paid throughout by you, and there's certain ways you have to do that. And then when you pass away, the church actually owns a life insurance policy on you. Now, I don't know if your church is open to that. Foundation can do that through trust and those kind of things. Simplest way is simply to make the church a beneficiary, but there are other ways. And that's a really good way. A lot of people, they feel that the premiums become the gift, and then the church gets a whole lot more, hopefully, than the premiums that were paid over a lifetime. So we do that quite a bit. They're not as popular. We don't see those as much, and we're not sure exactly why, because they are a good option. But I know we definitely would need professionals to help us make sure that all that's worded right, except for the beneficiary part. You can just do that. You also have some great resources in your church. I know part of the committee does a lot of this kind of thing. And so if you have questions, you can reach out to that committee and we can work together. But you have a lot of expertise within your church on that as well. And that's a huge benefit to you all. You've got several who have done this kind of thing in their professional world. Well, let me close up. Does anybody know who that is? You're not. That's my Aunt Bertha. I just didn't know if y'all knew her. She took that. We took that picture of her when she was 101. Aunt Bertha lived till she was 102. Aunt Bertha she understood the joy of giving. Every time you go to her house, she'd give you something. You would say, Aunt Bertha, I really like that lamp. Well, before you knew it, she picked it up and she put your name on and she said, well, when I'm gone, you can have the lamp. The problem is, if I would come in, 20 minutes later, my sister would come in, she'd give my sister the same lamp. But she gave, and the way her will was, she would write people in it. When my dad went to get her will, she had a stack of sticky notes this big. She wrote people in when she got mad, wrote people out when she got mad at them, and then when they had good grace, she put them back in. But Aunt Bertha loved to give, and she loved to plan. Aunt Bertha didn't have hardly anything. Hardly anything. My dad and his sister looked after Aunt Bertha, and honestly, they spent a lot of money helping Aunt Bertha. But she gave what little she had. When she died, my dad and Aunt did her estate. My dad called me and said, Daryl, I sent something in the mail to you. I need you to get that, sign it, and send it back. I said, okay. He said, Daryl, no, you need to sign it and get it back so we can get all this done. So I get the letter, and I open it up. And there is something I'm supposed to sign, but in it is a check. Aunt Bertha had left the 8 grandchildren. Aunt Bertha was pretty much my grandmother. My real grandmother died when my dad was 13, so Aunt Bertha was kind of our grandmother. She had split up whatever residual income she had and gave it to the 8 grandkids. And I looked at that check, and it was for $87.19. So I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, that's so sweet, Aunt Bertha, but I'm going to send this check back. I know you and Gail, I know y'all spent a lot of money. You and Mama go out to eat. Y'all did. I mean, that was awfully sweet. And he got real firm with me. He said, you will not send that check back. He said, you nor I am going to steal Aunt Bertha's joy. She wanted you to have it, and we are not going to steal that joy. Aunt Bertha knew about the joy of giving. And I'm so thankful. I do a whole seminar on the lessons Aunt Bertha taught me. Aunt Bertha taught me about giving. And so during this season of giving, don't let anybody steal your joy of giving. Enjoy every minute of it. Richard, we spoke. Good.
I won't take very long because Leonard needs a big part of this agenda. But I do want to refresh your memory about the Capital Campaign Committee. First of all, Roy Strickland. Listen, stand up. Irma. Leonard. He's not going to stand. All right. Now, Jason, you need to stand now because you're chairman of the deacons, right? Well, you don't. Where's Furman? Is Furman in here tonight? There he is. He's hiding behind. All right. They're the members of our committee. And we also had two marketing geniuses that took care of all the design and anything else we needed when it came to these beautiful scripture signs you see in here, and also some of the material you're going to see later on tonight and in a few weeks. Tammy Matthews and Allison Easton, we really appreciate their work. But if you recall, I stood out here in the parking lot when we were meeting outside, and I went over a little bit of what the Capital Campaign Committee was all about. But the bottom line is our goal is to be debt-free in a decade. And the committee brainstormed on, okay, how are we going to go about doing this? And bottom line, the simplest way for us to be debt-free in a decade, because we've already obligated ourselves for a 30-year mortgage, folks, on $700,000. But to be debt-free in a decade, if we put our heads together and our hearts together, and we raise $360,000 over the next 3 years, we will be out of debt in 10 years. And a lot of you look at me and say, how do you figure that? Well, $360,000 over the next 3 years actually reduces our interest payments by $300,000 over the life of our loan. So if you want to look at it another way, if Leonard gives $1 that he wants applied to the principal through the faith promise, principal on our mortgage, it's just like Leonard giving us $1.82. Because we're going to save 82 cents for every prepaid dollar we collect in the next 3 years. So when you're thinking about this and you're praying about it, keep that in mind. It's not just $1 you're giving, it's $1.82. Because right now, if we don't do anything, we're going to pay ever how much down payment we've made or we will make, plus $700,000, plus another $400,000 in interest. So we can remove that $400,000 and bring it down to only $100,000 if we prepay this principal. Does that drive home the message? Okay, all right. The committee is focused on this effort, and you're going to hear a lot more about this in the next several weeks leading up to homecoming. The faith promise, and we'll be giving you lots and lots more information and ideas on that. However, one other key component to this effort to try to prepay this debt involves naming rights, items, areas that are a component of the Family Life Center. And Leonard Johnson has been so kind to help the committee. He's had experience in this kind of stuff many, many years, and he's been willing to head this up for us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Leonard and let him have the program.
Chris and something. Yes, I will. In fact, Chris has just reminded me, so I'll go ahead and do it before I forget it. The handout that you're about to get and this card that he already passed out has been emailed out to the congregation and for those who could not be here tonight. So everybody has access to this. First of all, just while they're passing those out, I want to thank Darrell. Darrell and I go way back. He was a lot younger. It makes me feel extremely old to stand here tonight because I was there at Campbell the first day he came. And we had a great time there together. But thank you, Darrell. Thank you for everything you've done here tonight. It's very helpful. As Darrell was talking about how, when, and just what to give and so forth, I couldn't help but think about something that we've thought about and talked about in our committee meetings a tremendous amount. A very critical thing for every person in this church to understand, and I know our committee wants you to understand it. We're going to see some things. You see it on the handout there. You're going to see some naming opportunities with some fairly large dollar amounts on them. That's wonderful. But what is equally as wonderful is there is no such thing as a small gift. Every penny from every person, as measured by their ability and willingness to give, is what will make this work. It's not a matter of just these opportunities. Certainly we want to fund these, but every dollar counts. In the fundraising, when I was in fundraising at Campbell before I took over the business office there, and then when I work in fundraising later on in other things, and I think Darrell will back this up, one of the greatest factors in any organization is participation. Alumni participation in colleges and universities is the yardstick by which they are measured in their philanthropic program. We won't all participate. It will be at different levels. But please, before I go into anything about this, understand every single gift is significant. And they've been coming in regularly for now what, Chris? Three years, and we just passed $300,000. It's fabulous. So please know that going forward. I'm pleased tonight. I want to point out a couple of highlights in the handout, if you will, under the legacy, name, and opportunities, and I won't take a lot of your time tonight. But we have been blessed tremendously here at the church in what has been given already. I want you to look at the sentence there where it says donors have ongoing opportunities to give to the Neals Creek Family Life Center through faith promises, the card, through purchasing leaves on the tree, thanks to Patsy, who headed up that effort and worked tremendously hard on it, and thanks to tithes and offerings. So any method of giving is wonderful and has been doing a great job for us. Why do I point those out? Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I talked so loud everybody. Okay. Tracy, is this better? Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. These are the opportunities and the things that we have already been doing here. It's listed right there. And every person that has given to this campaign will be recognized. One of your first questions might be, the people are talking about naming opportunities here. That's wonderful. But every gift will be recognized, not in amount, of course, but there will be appropriate recognition in this new facility for every donor to this campaign, okay? So please know that going forward. Okay, now let's talk about the legacy name and opportunities for just a moment. To name the building, it will still carry a name that indicates this is a Neals Creek Family Life Center. There's no question about that. But to have a name of the building included in this is a $250,000 gift. The fellowship hall, that's the big room in the center, is $100,000. Conference room is the conference room that goes in on your immediate right is $25,000. The kitchen is $25,000. The portico, where you come into on the front or drive through, is $25,000. The staging room, that is the room in the back of the fellowship hall where a lot of things will be stored, but it will be when we have special productions and so forth, it will be staged from. So that it can also be named. The foyer, where you enter, will be $25,000. The playground, $25,000, and the cross on the building will be $25,000. We will have available, I just got a rough draft of it in the email a few minutes before I came in here tonight. We will have available in the brochure that we're working on a picture of what that will look like of the front of the church and what that will look like. But that's not available, wasn't available to do on here tonight. So those are the opportunities. So what Darrell has spent an excellent session here in educating us on what type of gift can I make. I'm not going to elaborate a lot on that. Cash or check, stocks or bonds, irrevocable trusts, and there are revocable trusts, but we would only be interested in a irrevocable trust, either an annuity trust or a unit trust. Fully paid life insurance policies, Darrell mentioned that. We would want the policies either fully paid and with the church as a permanent beneficiary. We will work out arrangements where the church will be a permanent beneficiary. This is not doubting anybody's desire, but things happen in families and things happen to people, and the church will not be able to do a naming opportunity for someone when the beneficiary will be changed later on. You have to provide for that. Property, as Darrell has already mentioned, and then pledges payable over a 3-year period with a minimum initial payment of 1/3 of the item value. Now, that's what we would like to do for these legacy naming opportunities. These gifts may be given for other things, but for these, this is the way we would need to do it. So how do you make a gift? How do you make a gift? If you've been given to the building fund all along, that money is accumulated. It's there. There's a record of it. Let's say I'm going to pick a number. Let's say you've given $15,000 and you want to name something for 25. Then that money already counts. This is not 25 more. It's accumulated, and you will add to it and be able to name it. Number 2, if we have more than one donor, make a rush for me right after this, or call me first thing in the morning, which I'm fully expecting my phone to blow up in the morning, and won't have 2 people that want to name item X, whatever it is. It will be the person that pays for the item value first. Why do I say that? If a person comes up and says, I want to name the cross, here's a $25,000 check. And a person comes up and says, I want to name the cross, I'll give you $8,000 now and over 3 years. That's wonderful, but the only fair way we could determine to do this, it was the first person who came and paid it in full. This I consulted with 2 professional fundraising consultants, and this is the way they told me that they had normally done it. Donors will be asked. Number 3 is very, very important. Donors will be asked to suggest the preferred name that memorializes or honors the gift, provided their suggestion does not exceed the name of 2 individuals or families, and recognition wording will be solicited from the donor. This is going to be a discussion process is what it amounts to, working with the Capital Campaign Committee. We won't go into all those details tonight, but if you come up and want to name something, what you put on your plaque will be a mutual discussion between you and the committee. So we'll arrive at something that is consistent and uniform so everybody feels fairly treated when all of it is said and done, if that makes sense. And I think I skipped over that part. Each gift will be memorialized with a plaque of the appropriate description on or near the item that is being named. If it's the foyer, it would be in the foyer. If it's the portico, it will be there. So it'll be on or near it, okay? It would be no more than 2 names of the individuals or family. In other words, you wouldn't have someone come up and say, given by, and name every child and grandchildren they get in honor of, and then name every, you know what I'm saying. We would have to limit it to given by Patsy and Ken Edwards in memory or honor of no more than 2 people or 2 groups. Do you see? It becomes where you can't put it all on a plaque is what it would come to. So that's basically the how of it. The recognition wording will be discussed. Everybody will work together on that. Then who do I contact to make a gift, and is your gift confidential? As always, all amounts of gifts here are confidential. I have had the fortunate blessing to be asked by the committee to do this. So if you will, there's my contact information, and you may contact me at any time. Just by either one of this is the best. What will I do with that? If we have people coming to ask, and we certainly hope we do, to name these things, every time we will go back to committee. The committee will be fully aware of the request. They will not be aware of the name of the person, and they will not be aware of the amount. I will simply go in and say, we have a donor who has met the threshold and would like to name this item. And we will discuss it, and that committee also becomes what fundraisers are very accustomed to, called a gift acceptance committee, and Darrell alluded to this a while ago. If you had time, I could tell you horror stories from Campbell when I was raising money there. I will tell you one. I flew to Boca Raton, Florida. A man wanted to give us 400 acres of prime land. It was valued at something like, I can't remember how many million. And I knew it had to be too good to be true, Darrell. So I got there, and it was there. The land was exactly what he said. I only had to relocate approximately 1,200 rare turtles that nobody would let me relocate. That's the only thing we had to do, and then we could take full possession. So that's why you have, in any organization, you have what's called a gift acceptance committee for any campaign. And you look at things, and I've got many more of those, but that's beyond the subject. No one, I'm not saying anyone would do that, but somebody has to be a central clearinghouse and decide how it works. So this capital campaign committee would serve as that. I've gone over that, the types of quick. I know I've gone very quickly because I'm trying to be mindful of your time tonight, but happy to answer any questions now, Pastor, and Richard, and Irma, and Roy, or I'll stay up here afterwards. But glad to open the floor for questions if you have any. Oh, I'm sorry. Chris did ask me to.
Then we'll go into questions.
Yes, do you have it in front of you? It says, your faith promise, after prayerful thought and consideration, I make a faith promise gift of, per me, week, month, or year, and you just circle one, for the 3 years beginning 1/1/21. And you would like to give this in honor or memory of whom. And then, if not that type of giving, then you would like to have be interested in the legacy name and opportunities, and you would like to be contacted as soon as possible. If you want me to contact you, then fill that part out. Check that block, and I will contact you. And then you understand, and this is a critical point. Darrell also alluded to this a while ago. I heard him slip it in, and it was a critical, important thing. Over and above tithes and offerings. Richard's calculations that he put out for us a while ago assume that we're giving our regular tithes and offerings, which makes the mortgage payment. This is above and beyond. We're able to reduce the principal. Okay? Chris, was that it? Okay. Okay.
And so just a word. Hello, we're live. Just a word about that card. So when it comes to Homecoming Sunday, the 18th of October, as Leonard has already said, we're going to have some very nice brochures, a 12-page brochure printed. You will get that on Homecoming Sunday, and it will have one of these cards in there. But we mainly wanted to give this to you tonight just as a sample. Now, if you are interested in one of these naming opportunities, feel free, by all means, to fill out what you need to fill out and get that in Leonard's hands. But primarily, this is just for you to be looking at, to be giving some prayerful consideration. And again, that brochure that you get, that booklet that you get on Homecoming Sunday, it will have one of these in there, and a tear out. It'll be perforated, and you can fill it out. And then we're all going to come and make our faith promise on Homecoming Sunday. But again, should you need to indicate a gift, because basically right as soon as this meeting is over, the list of naming opportunities becomes available. Correct, Leonard? Yep. So you can use this card for that should you need to go ahead and do that in advance. All right. So at this point, we'll open it up for questions, and if you would, please wait for me to get the microphone to you before you ask your question, just because for the sake of those that are watching us on YouTube, they can't hear your question without this microphone. So if you'll just raise your hand.
Leonard, did I understand right? If Lee and I said that we wanted to name the cross for $25,000, and we said that we wanted to give, I'm just throwing a number, $100 a month until it was paid off. I'm just saying that, whatever it is. And then 2 weeks from now, somebody comes up and says, "Oh, well, I'm gonna go ahead and give $25,000 for the cross." That bumps us off of naming the cross, even though we spoke up first. And is that what you said?
No, yes and no. We're assuming there's some time period in here where this was going to happen. We couldn't reverse that if we'd already said to you that. We'll be gathering that information and seeing what responses we have before those decisions are made. Yeah. Now, it wouldn't be over in that example, and I know you were using an example. Don't forget the 3-year period. All of this is contingent. The maximum length we're going out here as far as naming opportunities, not as far as gifts to the campaign, but as far as naming opportunities is 3 years. Richard, Irma, y'all correct me if I say wrong. Yeah, and a third down. So if you came up and said, now to the example, we will do the third, yes, you would be awarded it, yes.
At some point, there will be
If it's a tie is what I was getting.
yeah, at
What-
some point, there will be a definitive cutoff period where
Yeah.
we'll kind of issue a last call for any naming opportunities, and then the committee will have all of that information and make that decision. But yes, the preference is going to be given for those who can provide full price up front.
There's really not any other better way we could find to settle a tie, if you will, than that, other than drawing straws or flipping coins. And we hope we have that issue. I mean, that would be wonderful to have everybody call tomorrow morning and want to do this. I've cleared my schedule in the morning. I'm fully expecting lots of phone calls. So if you call and I happen to be on a Zoom, just hang in there. I'm coming. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you so much to Leonard and Richard and Daryl, and thank you all for your presence here tonight and your interest and participation in this. If you know anyone else in our congregation that may have some questions, please direct them to either Leonard or one of those who are on the Capital Campaign Committee. Again, it's Roy Strickland and Irma and Richard and Leonard. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have about that. I just want to emphasize exactly what Leonard started his presentation off with. I know when we look at a large number of naming opportunities and figures with a whole lot of zeros behind them, that can be intimidating, and you can think, wow, I'm not anywhere even in the realm of being able to do something like that. Every gift matters, and our goal is for everyone in our church family to make a faith promise of some level, because every gift matters. Every gift is important. Every gift gets us closer to where we need to be, and so we cannot do it just with a few big gifts. We have to have everybody along the way, and that's what we want this to be, is about fulfilling a vision that God has laid on our heart to do as a church family. And if we'll all prayerfully consider what we can do, even if it's $5 more a month, it'll help us make that dream a reality and to be debt-free in a decade. Let's give our Capital Campaign Committee a round of applause for all of their hard work so far. You may have heard us along the way mention a faith promise dinner that we were considering doing. Because of COVID and the circumstances, we ultimately decided not to do that. So we're not going to do a dinner. What we are going to do is expand our homecoming worship service a little bit. So we won't have Sunday school that morning, but what we'll do is we'll start our service a little early at 10 o'clock. We're going to have a 2-hour service, but it'll be filled with a lot of just wonderful things that will lead us up to that culmination of making a faith promise on October the 18th. I promise you that 2 hours will fly by. There's another thing. We may be doing a breakfast that morning. I've got to talk with the deacons more about that, but we may have breakfast served that morning before we get into that, because I know 2 hours you're going to be hungry. You need something to fuel you through that time. But that is our plan, and we look forward to just continuing to share with you the testimonies on Sunday morning and continuing to share with you our enthusiasm about the Magnify campaign. And again, appreciate just the tremendous generosity and support of our congregation all throughout this, getting us to this very point. We have such a great head start. We have started with our best foot forward, and I'm so excited about what God has in store. Just real quickly, Ken Edwards will be giving us an update on this Sunday morning, on the construction. And so you'll be hearing a little bit more, hopefully, about timelines and things to look forward to. They have resumed work back on the building this week, and so continue to pray for just the safety of the workers and for that project, and it'll all happen in God's time. Let's dismiss tonight with our theme verse for the Capital Campaign. It's a little bit covered up there, but we've said it enough. I think you all remember. It's from Psalm 34:3. It's also on your sheet. If you look on the handout, I think it's down there at the bottom of that sheet somewhere. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Amen. Go in peace. So we are having, thank you, that's a great point, Miss Gladys. We are having homecoming service that morning. We are not doing a covered dish lunch afterwards. Thank you. That's a great point. I left that out. That's why we are considering possibly doing a breakfast that would be catered, but we will not be doing the covered dish lunch. Because, again, just everybody bringing in a lot of different food and going through, touching the same serving utensils was not going to be the best idea for this year. And believe you me, I'm as bummed as anybody about that. But we're working to try to have some kind of alternative. But thank you. That was a great point. I'm sorry I left that out. Any other closing questions? Okay. Have a good night, everybody. Be safe going home.